And welcome to Hannity tonight. Monica Crowley, Donald Trump Jr., General Jack Keane, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. They'll all join us in a few minutes. But first, President Trump checks another major item off his list of promises to you, the American people. Tonight, I am calling on Republicans in Congress to end their recess. Get back to work. Do your job in Washington. That's tonight's opening monologue. All right, here it is, day 89 of the Trump administration. The president, he's not wasting any time fulfilling the promises he made to all of you. Earlier today at a factory in Wisconsin, President Trump gave a speech and signed a Buy American, Hire American executive order aimed at creating jobs for Americans that desperately need them. Let's take a look.
Together, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that more products are stamped with those wonderful words, made in the USA.
All right, we're going to have more on the president's executive order in the next segment, but what he did today is not new. The president has now consistently, in 89 days, been checking one item off his list after another. Just take a look. Let's look at what he's accomplished so far. Neil Gorsuch, an originalist, now an associate justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, despite historic and unprecedented Democratic obstruction. Now the president's bringing jobs back. Since January, the economy has added over 500,000 jobs. Business optimism is now soaring in the country. Major companies, Ford, General Motors, Toyota, Fiat Chrysler, Intel, all have been adding jobs and investing and pledging to invest billions of dollars. He's been gutting, literally gutting, Obama-era regulations. And remember, the president said he could eliminate up to 75% of those government regulations. Now, the president has ended the war on coal by cutting tons of red tape from the Obama administration. He has reduced illegal immigration. Border crossings, interesting. You enforce the law. It's plummeted since President Trump was sworn in. The White House is taking a very hard stance against sanctuary cities. He's drafted a plan now to defeat ISIS. The president has imposed a 5-year lobbying ban, as promised. The Trump administration sanctioned Iran over its missile program, and they have put the radical mullahs in Tehran on notice. Now, the president also restored American leadership on the world stage by responding to Syria and Assad and their use of chemical weapons with that Tomahawk missile strike. He also created a task force to reduce crime, another one to protect police officers, and one to target drug cartels. By the way, not to mention, unlike his predecessors, President Trump is actually now forging a relationship with China to help counter North Korea and their aggression and their nuclear ambitions by placing economic pressure on China to help dissolve the situation. Well, what we're seeing now is the art of the deal playing out in real time before your eyes. So now, while the president, he's moving at a rapid pace to put his agenda in place, there's still plenty of work to be done. He cannot do the rest of his agenda without the help of Republicans in Congress. He wants to build the wall, tax reform, repealing, replacing Obamacare, extreme vetting, rebuilding the military, cutting government spending, reducing the federal workforce, renegotiating trade deals, sending education back to the states, energy independence. He needs help. And that's my point tonight. Members of Congress, I want you to listen closely. Speaker Ryan, I want you to listen closely. Senate Majority Leader McConnell, listen closely. President Trump is keeping his promises, doing the things he said he would do with a lot of success. Now it's time to hold Washington accountable. Now, Democrats have shown they're going to obstruct the president's agenda at every single turn. So guess what? It's time for you Republican, especially your Republican leaders, quit the bickering and the infighting and the obstruction, come together, build consensus on these major Trump agenda items, which, by the way, are supposed to be your agenda items. Now, I know the head of the Freedom Caucus, Congressman Mark Meadows, well, I've talked to him at least 100 times in the last few weeks. He has told me there is now today a coalition on the health care bill. And also a Freedom Caucus member, Dave Bratt, key leader in the caucus, he's stating publicly that the Freedom Caucus is saying yes to many of the new proposals in the negotiations. In other words, repealing and replacing can now pass if Republicans work together on health care. So the question I'm asking tonight, what are you people waiting for? Maybe it's time to cancel recess, call every member of Congress back to Washington, and maybe it's time for you guys to start doing your job. Now, I understand you need to spend time back in your districts and states, talk with your constituents, but you've also been elected to do your job in D.C. on behalf of those people that put you there. So let's put things in perspective. In the month of April, the House has had 12 days of recess, the Senate 10. Through December, the House will be in recess 120 days. The Senate will be off 84 days. By the way, when is the last time any of you took that much time off of work? By the way, I do get 1 2-week vacation a year around Christmas. That's it. Then I get an occasional Friday here and there. What's missing is a sense of urgency from Republicans in Congress that the rest of America lives with every day. Nobody gets 120 days off. Where is your sense of duty, Republicans, to the American people? This is part of the reason why, in the most recent Gallup poll, Congress, guess what? Your approval rating is 24%. You've earned that. And for years, Republicans, you wanted control of all three branches of government. You got the House in 2010, the Senate in 2014, Donald Trump in 2016. You've made promises all throughout the years you'd get things done. Well, now you have the House, the Senate, the presidency. I'm saying no more excuses. You Republicans need to go back to Washington right now and do what you said for years you're going to do. Pass legislation that this president can sign into law, starting with repealing and replacing Obamacare. This is a huge opportunity right now for the country to get back on track. So I'm warning Republicans tonight, don't blow it. Don't waste this opportunity, because sooner rather than later, the American people are going to get sick and tired of your failed and broken promises and your lack of urgency. That's my admonition. You will do this at your own, not do this at your own peril. You decide. Here with reaction, conservative commentator Monica Crowley. Here's my frustration. My frustration is for 8 years, these guys said, give us the House, give us the Senate, give us the White House, we'll repeal and replace Obamacare. Okay, 8 years. They didn't have a bill. They didn't have consensus. And then after they didn't have the votes, well, they were willing to let it die. The Freedom Caucus are the ones that put it back together.
Yes, preach, Brother Hannity. That monologue was absolutely what needed to be said to these Republicans in Congress. And again, there are exceptions. The Freedom Caucus, which has been demonized across the board. Freedom Caucus are not the bad guys. They're the people who actually came in and did what they told their constituents they were going to do, what they ran and won on, which was the agenda you laid out. They're not the bad people here, okay? The Republicans in Congress got a mandate from the American people. The American people gave them both houses of Congress and the presidency with a mandate. But do you remember a couple of years ago when the New England Patriots lost a Super Bowl and Gisele Bündchen, Tom Brady's wife, in a fit of frustration said, my husband cannot throw and catch the ball at the same time?
That's a good point.
This president is doing his best to affect this agenda that he ran and won on, and which most Republicans ran and won on as well. But he cannot throw and catch the ball. He's got to have members of Congress who have majorities now.
That's such a good analogy.
For only so much longer, right? Because if they don't affect this agenda, God knows what's going to happen next year in the next election cycle. They have a limited amount of time to do what the American people sent them there to do, which is reverse the Obama agenda and affect a conservative
Everything is
one.
predicated. For the president to even begin his economic agenda, there's $1 trillion he's going to get from health care when they repeal and replace Obamacare, or to the extent that they can repeal it. No bill, not even the 2015 bill, did that. Here's what I don't understand. 12 years old, I wash dishes. If I don't move, the dishes pile up. When I was a chef at 13, a short order chef, if I don't move fast, the orders line up. When I was in contracting, I'm not going to make money unless I get the house framed, the walls painted, the wallpaper hung, the tile laid, and the roof put on. Where is the urgency? Who takes off like this? I don't know anybody that works for a living that does this.
We hire them. We pay their salaries. This is not the private sector. This is the government. We pay for all of this. But the other thing that's missing here seems to be leadership. So you called out Speaker Ryan here. You called out Majority Leader McConnell. That's right. Where is the leadership coming from the Republicans? They have begged the American people for a long time to give them the reins of power so that they could reverse 8 years of Obama policies and that agenda. They ran and won on that. The American people said, you know what, we had enough with that far left agenda. We want to restore America. We want to bring America back. Then they wonder why, number one, their job approval ratings are so low. And then they wonder why Donald Trump got elected. Well, you know what? If we wanted a third Bush term, we would have voted for Jeb. If we wanted a more conventional kind of politician, we would have voted for somebody else.
What's frustrating?
We wanted Donald Trump, Sean, because he promised to smash the existing system, right? And he is doing that, but he needs help.
They deserve lower premiums. They deserve competition. They deserve better care, a better bang for their buck. And these guys, 90 days in, have not done their job.
And remember, they've got
my patience, it's run out.
I know, mine
don't
too.
have patience.
Mine too. And remember, they've got a very limited window. The 100 days is this like sort of fictional construct, but it's there for a reason. Because once you pass the 100 days, then there's blood in the water. Then they start looking ahead to the next election cycle next year.
You're right.
Then they start doing CYA. This is the time to get the big stuff through. The repeal and replace of Obamacare.
The economic plan.
The economic plan. And I got to say something on tax reform. I know it's a complicated issue, but again, they've had 8 years to put together general consensus on tax cuts and tax relief for business and individuals.
But I got to say, get off your ass and go to work. Is that fair? Am I allowed to say that on cable?
And by the way, on tax reform silences all critics because that will generate a booming economy. It will silence Trump's critics and the Republican Congress's critics, including you and me, Sean.
All right, Monica, always good to see you.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks.
calming my anger. When we come back, President Trump shows that he has the back of American workers. Like some members of Congress, he signed a Buy American, High American executive order. When we come back, I'll explain to you why that's so important. My mini monologue is next. Then we'll get reaction from Donald Trump Jr. He'll join us in studio. And then later tonight.
One of my problems with President Obama for 8 years, he had a tendency to minimize the actual threat and exaggerate our performance against threats in the world.
General Jack Keane, he's out there slamming the Obama administration for minimizing and making worse the North Korean threat. He'll explain. He'll join us straight ahead.
Good evening and live from America's News headquarters, I'm Jackie Ibanez in New York. Early results in a special election for Georgia's 6th congressional district shows Democrat John Ossoff with a commanding lead. Ossoff is hoping he can flip the seat vacated by Tom Price, who resigned to become President Trump's health secretary. However, he would need to win a majority of the votes tonight to win the seat outright. If he doesn't, he will meet the top Republican vote getter in a runoff on June 20th. Meanwhile, former President George H.W. Bush is spending the night in the hospital. Doctors treating the 92-year-old for a mild case of pneumonia at Houston Methodist Hospital. A family spokesman says the 41st president is in, quote, very good spirits, but will remain hospitalized for further observation. Back in January, you may remember former President Bush was also treated for pneumonia and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. I'm Jackie Ibanez. Now back to Hannity.
And welcome back to Hannity. So since the day he announced he was running for president, well, Donald Trump vowed to bring jobs back to America. And today he took yet another step to keep that promise, and that is tonight's mini monologue. All right, the president traveled to Kenosha, Wisconsin earlier today. He toured the Snap-on Tools headquarters. After he saw the facility, well, the president addressed the crowd, signed an executive order about buying American and hiring American. Watch this.
Together, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that more products are stamped with those wonderful words, made in the USA. With this order, I'm directing every single agency in our government to strictly uphold our Buy American laws, to minimize the use of waivers, and to maximize Made in America content in all federal projects. In America, we honor work. We honor grit. We honor craftsmanship. We honor the men and women who turn dreams into reality with their own two hands.
You know what? It's about time. Now, why shouldn't we put American companies first? Why shouldn't we try and hire American workers as much as possible? And yes, buy American products as much as we can. Seems like a no-brainer, but of course, the left, they're going to try and tear this executive order to shreds like past executive orders. Now, for me, it's just my own feeling. I prefer to keep American factories going. That's why I've only been purchasing American cars for all my adult life. So I applaud the president's decision today. It's nice having a commander-in-chief that, A, keeps his promises, who's looking out for the American worker for once. Joining us now with reaction, Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump Jr. How are you? Welcome back.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Sick of winning yet?
No.
Okay, good. Me neither.
You know, I'm not sick of winning, but I am sick of Congress. As I said in the last segment, I'm tired. You've got the speed of your father, and then you got the speed of Congress.
Yeah,
it's here versus here.
It's two very different paces, obviously.
It's frustrating.
Hey, listen, I think it's going to take some time. They're going to have to get used to his pace. He's going to set that pace, as he always has in life and in business. And he's going to keep doing things that make sense for America. And it's been great. It's been awesome to watch because, as an American, I've seen more done in 2 months than I have in the prior 2 administrations. Actual promises.
Well, I just put it up on the screen in the last segment. I won't do it again. But he's accomplished all of this. But now it's time to repeal and replace Obamacare. Now it's time legislatively to get his economic agenda through.
I agree.
Because we do have 95 million Americans out of the labor force, 50 million in poverty, 50 million on food stamps. That's what the election was about to me.
100%. Listen, it's time to do that, certainly. And by the way, me, if I were him, I would have said, you know what, let's just wait, let it collapse. But he's not that kind of guy. He's not going to let all those people.
You really would? You don't like that. You wouldn't.
Maybe I would. But you know what?
Yeah.
He won't. I know he won't because he made a promise. He's going to fix this for the hardworking men and women. And we can't bankrupt the middle class of this country to give them insurance in name only. And that's what this is. They have insurance, but you don't really have insurance when I speak to a family of 4 making $50 grand a year who's paying $1,800 a month in premiums and has a $10,000 deductible.
Yeah.
That's not insurance, Sean.
It's not insurance. It's
and so we have to get people something that's actually affordable. We got to stop all the people from dropping out of the exchanges. We have to be able to have real competition there. And we have to stop the premiums going up.
I talked to Mark Meadows of the Freedom Caucus. They now are on board with health care. So as soon as they get the language written up, they should be able to vote on it. It should pass the House. Apparently, the Senate parliamentarian also approved the language, so there's not a reconciliation issue anymore. And you're right, that has to happen. There's a group, America First. They came out with this ad about Obamacare. Let me play the ad and get your reaction to it.
Obamacare is a disaster. Premiums up, care down. Americans forced into plans we don't want and can't afford, and it's going to get worse. That's why Congressman Gary Palmer is taking on Nancy Pelosi, standing firm, opposing Obamacare. Congressman Palmer is taking on special interests and keeping his promise to the voters to repeal Obamacare. Call Congressman Palmer. Thank him for his courage and for standing with President Trump to repeal Obamacare now.
So this is sort of complimentary as a PAC that's supporting your father's agenda.
Correct.
I know Katie Walsh is a part of it.
Katie Walsh, Brad Parscale, a bunch of the people that were basically part of the campaign have said, hey, this is what we're going to do to support the president's agenda. I'm not even involved. I'm going to be involved on this side because where I see it makes sense, where I see his promises and where they can be delivered and they need to be pushed over the finish line, I'll lend myself to it because it's important. I mean, these are the promises we made to the American people. We made this at the time when I was still part of the campaign. Now it's my father's agenda, and he's going to do that. And that's what makes sense. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's about putting people back to work. It's about making sure that Americans are taken care of before our adversaries abroad.
It's funny because early in the campaign, you were the first to say this to me, and I've known your father for a couple of decades, being in New York media, and you said my dad's a blue-collar billionaire.
Yeah. Oh, I got a lot of heat for that, but it is. I mean, you see that. That's what it is. That was a big difference in this campaign was he can actually speak to real, hardworking, blue-collar Americans.
And Washington
not
hates him
speak
for
at
it.
them.
Washington
he can speak
and the
with
media.
them. Oh, they hate him for it. But, I mean, when you look at our opponent, there was zero relatability. You couldn't, even if you crafted the perfect statement, you couldn't deliver it. I mean, he really can communicate to those people. And, D.C. hates him for it because he's probably more at home with those people than he is with the D.C. elite, without question.
You know what's funny? Because the AFL-CIO guys came to meet with your dad, like so many other business people, small business people, business owners. Anyway, some union guys, and he's like, have you guys ever been in the Oval Office? Now, this is a group that was beholden, lockstep with the Democratic Party. They'd never been in the Oval Office.
And listen,
your dad took them in.
They know, but they also know that their constituents
Yeah.
They can't get away with like years past where it was, okay, well, union bosses tell you what to do, you're going to do. You know, their constituents were largely these people that came out in droves for Trump. And so I think you saw a lot of that. They weren't supporting the other campaign. They weren't doing as much. And now they're actually realizing, hey, Trump's infrastructure plan, the things that Trump wants to put into place, this
Buy
is going to
American,
be
hire
incredible
American
for their base.
But and by the way, he did that in New York with every building he was building. All right, what do you, when you watch media, probably short of me, I think I'm an island unto myself in the media these days. Does it anger you? Because they're going hard and heavy every single day, like the Russian conspiracy. 8 months later, no proof, no evidence.
You know, listen, it does anger me because I know the truth. I know what's there. I was a part of it for so long that it is very frustrating. And it's hard to believe for me as an American that so many people would basically rally against what makes sense for America, what the American people voted to put in office, what, you know, all those red counties that was basically the entire map of the United States, other than, you know, New York and LA, you know, what all those people want, they voted for this. And they're going against it because they want to protect their own interest. And that's scary.
All right, private conversation. I probably shouldn't bring it public, but I'm going to. I thought you should go with your dad to the White House. I think of all the kids, in a lot of ways, you're most like your father. Am I right?
Listen, I think we are in many respects, you know, but I think, you know, that also can create clashes. And, you know, I think he's got a great team. I think Jared, Ivanka in there for the...
No, that's not against anybody else. I'm saying in addition to.
Practical. You know, yes, but you also have to be able to then sell and speak to the president in a certain way. I probably don't do that as well as others. And so it just depends. So, you know, there can be a clash of personalities.
In other words, I think you could be like your dad on Twitter occasionally.
Correct. You know, I think I got some of the savagery. You know, so there is some component of that.
Do you make up nicknames for people too?
Oh yeah,
I don't want to hear it. Don't even start. No. Don't even start.
Tell yours, Sean? No.
Yeah.
No, but listen. I think what's going on there is great. But again, for me as a citizen, as a concerned American, as a father of 5 kids who are going to grow up in this country, I'm going to get out there just as a citizen and support the people that make sense. Support the people that are going to help him get his agenda through. And that's what really America is about.
All right. Now, you're going to Montana. You're going to be there Friday and Saturday. And by the way, if you want to see Don Jr., you can go to the website. It's called what?
The GN4TVictory
Committee.com. We'll put it up on the screen. And we'll see you again. Don, good to see you. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. And coming up next tonight.
One of my problems with President Obama for 8 years, he had a tendency to minimize the actual threat and exaggerate our performance against threats in the world.
All right, General Jack Keane calling out the Obama administration for downplaying the real threat that North Korea now poses the world. He's here to explain, and also tonight.
As I speak these words, the FBI has opened terrorism investigations in all of our 50 states. And since 2013, there have been 37 ISIS-linked plots to attack our country.
The Department of Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly issues that warning about ISIS. Dr. Gorka will join us later with reaction on this busy news night tonight here on Hannity.
One of my problems with President Obama for 8 years, he had a tendency to minimize the actual threat and exaggerate our performance against threats in the world. And I think they purposely minimized this North Korean threat.
All right, that was Fox News military analyst General Jack Keane discussing the foreign policy failures of the Obama administration last night with Martha McCallum. Joining us now, he joins us now with more. All right, here's my take. I tried to lay this out. It was during the Clinton years, Clinton gave the North Koreans, Kim Jong-il at the time, $4 billion and promised the American people this is a great deal for us, that this will stop their nuclear program. He was wrong. They got nuclear weapons, and they got the money on top of it. Same thing. Obama believed the red line in the sand resulted in Assad getting rid of chemical weapons. I also will predict with certainty tonight that this bad Iranian deal will end with the Iranians getting nuclear weapons. Why does the left constantly make this mistake that they can appease despots and dictators?
Well, that's actually it. I mean, they absolutely believe that diplomatic efforts should always trump any other kind of option. And they believe that that end state that they're trying to achieve, that diplomatic objective end state, is always within reach. The truth of the matter is they're putting it out of reach. Witness what happened here in North Korea. We've had the Obama policy of strategic patience. Translate that for our viewing audience, that means do nothing, do not push back on them. And during this period of time, there's been three rulers of North Korea. This current ruler has accelerated and is racing the development of ballistic missiles as a delivery system for nuclear weapons. And he's moving at an incredible speed.
Taking the vice president's comments and McMaster's comments, General McMaster, it says they're going to stop this containment philosophy policy. Okay, they have nuclear weapons. We don't believe they have ICBM capability. The question is, how far would this administration be willing to go in terms of stopping ICBM capability without risking millions dying in Seoul and potentially millions dying in Japan? What do we do? How do you stop that?
They've already done it. They've declared and put back on the table that a military option, if required, they would exercise it. And I think North Korea, China, and now South Korea, because that's what we're doing there, we're reassuring them, and Japan, believe it. And what has that already done for us? Within a few weeks of declaring that, and that was done when Secretary Mattis went there 2 days after he was on the job as Secretary of Defense. Secretary Tillerson followed shortly thereafter. Now we have Vice President Pence out there, all reassuring our allies and letting North Korea and China know that we're dead serious. As a result of the Mar-a-Lago talks, the Chinese president calls back last Wednesday and starts talking to President Trump about exercising some leverage over North Korea for the first time. And his foreign minister calls Secretary Tillerson on Sunday, echoing the same thing and going a little bit further. So what has happened here is that the military option, which was never on the table with the Obama administration, everybody knew it, Trump puts it on the table, and it strengthens our diplomatic hand, and it's moving China in the right direction. Now, listen, we don't know for a fact, Sean, if China is just gaming us for the time being so it can get some other advantages over us, dealing with trade, et cetera, and it's not really going to do much with North Korea, but they are moving in the right direction for the first time in 20-plus years. That would never have happened if Trump did not put the military option back on the table.
All right, good to see you, General. Thank you. Very tense situation. We'll continue to monitor. And up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
As I speak these words, the FBI has opened terrorism investigations in all of our 50 states. And since 2013, there have been 37 ISIS-linked plots to attack our country.
The Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly warning about the dangers that radical Islamists pose to America. Up next, we get reaction from Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and also tonight.
His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached.
All right, liberal snowflakes spiraling way out of control. Larry Elder will weigh in. We'll show you the video and much more.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Jackie Ibanez in New York. The fate of a historically conservative congressional district near Atlanta rests in the hands of voters tonight. And at this hour, the polls show Democrat Jon Ossoff with a commanding lead over 17 other contenders in a special race for Georgia's 6th district. The 30-year-old candidate is hoping he can claim enough votes tonight to avoid a June runoff election. Analysts say the outcome of this race could be a barometer of the 2018 midterm elections. And a shooting spree in Fresno, California, killing 3 people. According to police, the suspect yelled Allah Akbar while being arrested. All of the victims were white men, but police now say the shooting is not connected to terrorism. The suspect, 39-year-old Corey Ali Muhammad, you see him there, was also wanted in connection with last week's killing of a motel security guard. I'm Jackie Ibanez. Now back to Hannity. For all your headlines, log on to foxnews.com.
And welcome back to Hannity. So, according to a disturbing new report, the vice president of Iraq believes that ISIS and al-Qaeda are actually negotiating a potential alliance. Meanwhile, earlier today, Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly issued a very stern warning about the constant and imminent threat of global terror. Pay attention to this.
As I speak these words, the FBI has opened terrorism investigations in all of our 50 states. And since 2013, there have been 37 ISIS-linked plots to attack our country. In the past 12 months alone, there have been 36 homegrown terrorist cases opened in 18 states. We are under attack from terrorism both within and outside of our borders. These men and women are without conscience, and they operate without rules. They despise the United States because we are a nation of rights, of laws, and of freedoms. They have a single mission, and that is our destruction. And I tell you without exaggeration, they tried to carry out this mission each and every day, each and every night.
Joining us now, Deputy Assistant to the President, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, is with us. Let's start with a possible alliance, al-Qaeda and ISIS, and what it would mean in terms of the terror network.
Well, this is very fresh news. The White House doesn't have anything official to respond. But if we look at the fact that ISIS was part of al-Qaeda, it was al-Qaeda in Iraq, we know they come from the same ideological gene pool. So that is not necessarily something that would rule out this kind of alliance. But right now we have one report, and it's early days as to whether or not this is in fact a factual representation of something new.
But there is the potential not only of an emerging new alliance. The president got along, according to every report, very well with the president of China, but more importantly, he recently met with King Abdullah of Jordan. He met with President General al-Sisi of Egypt. He met with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and Prime Minister Netanyahu. I'll be in Israel later in the week. Because of Obama and his seemingly awful judgment on the Iranian deal, there seems to be an opportunity for a brand new coalition emerging in the Middle East. And those Sunni nations aligning with Israel is a game changer, especially because of the U.S. interaction with all those countries. Thoughts?
Absolutely, Sean. So if you look at the last 8 years, we taught the good Sunnis of the region, the people who wanted to work with us, not to trust us. They didn't trust the Obama White House. Just look at the Iran deal. Look at our response as a nation, as a government to the so-called Arab Spring, how the Obama White House supported the Muslim Brotherhood, that is the grandfather of all of these jihadi groups. So, no, this is where we go from having a fake smoke and mirrors coalition under the last administration to having a real one. And it's people like President Sisi, King Abdullah, the Emiratis, even the Kurds, who are absolutely crucial. We are not going to fight this war against ISIS by ourselves. We're not even going to be on the front line. The president is clear. This is not a neoconservative interventionist administration, but we are going to help our friends, like the Jordanians, like the Egyptians, like the Iraqis, fight their own war for themselves. We're going to be a very good friend to those nations.
Well, I got to ask this. So if we have investigations, ISIS, radical Islamic investigations in all 50 states, all these incidents that we could talk about, Orlando, Fort Hood, San Bernardino, Chattanooga, the Boston bombing, reports out today, Allahu Akbar, how does America root this out? Because it's like, okay, where's it coming from? Some people are inspired online. And we have sympathizers. Some people might try to get into the country and lie their way in. How do you possibly judge when you're taking in people from countries that have values that directly contradict our constitutional values? How do you ever know? Or can you ever know?
Absolutely. How do we win this war? With incredibly serious individuals like Secretary Kelly and Attorney General Sessions. Look at the cabinet President Trump has gathered. Incredibly serious men and women. And if anybody knows how to win this war here in America, it's the Attorney General and it's the new Secretary of Homeland Security. We're going to focus on not the absurdities of the Obama administration, who said it's white supremacists and returning Iraqi veterans that are the primary threat to America. We're going to focus on the radicalizing individuals, the people that are recruiting here in America, and we're going to start using human intelligence tools again, like the NYPD developed in New York.
All right, we got to run, but we appreciate your insight, input. Thank you so much, Dr. Gorka. And coming up next on this busy news night tonight here on Hannity.
His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached.
All right, Congresswoman Maxine Waters calling for President Trump's impeachment yet again over the weekend. So will the liberal snowflakes ever let up? Larry Elder's up next, straight ahead.
And his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
All right, Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters once again calling for President Trump to be impeached. Now, Waters was taking part in one of the many tax protests that were held over the weekend where all these liberal snowflakes were out in full force. Now, in case you were too busy, too sane to attend one of these crazy demonstrations, here's some of the fun that you missed out on. Take a look.
We want to see his taxes, and we want to see them now!
A liar, a cheat, a climate change denier. A liar, a cheat, a climate change denier.
There is a con man in the Oval Office with deep ties to organized crime who's just discovered he likes bombs, and he may be a Russian asset.
Joining us with reaction, radio syndicated, nationally syndicated talk shows for Salem Radio. Larry Elder is with us. I don't even know how to react to this anymore. But what's worse is the media believes these conspiracy theories. How do you think this is effective? Because from my perspective, as Donald Trump keeps his promises, he runs into re-election. Thoughts?
Right. Where do you start, Sean, with Maxine Waters? If Maxine Waters were a white male Republican, the media would be using words like irresponsible, over the top, questionable ethics, demagogue. This is a woman who once defended a former Black Panther who was convicted of murdering a New Jersey state trooper, fled to Cuba. Maxine Waters writes a letter to Fidel Castro, calls her a freedom fighter, compares her to Martin Luther King. This is a woman who once said George Herbert Walker Bush, I thought he was the Bush that the left liked, called him a racist. This is a woman who once got a meeting with the former Secretary of Treasury, did not tell him that she had an interest in a minority bank that she was trying to get a bailout for, got the bailout, and was investigated by the House Ethics Committee for ethical violations. Of course, Maxine Waters played the race card, and the investigation went away. You don't want to get caught between Maxine Waters and a race card. And so she's, if Ronald Reagan was Teflon, she makes Ronald Reagan look like flypaper because it doesn't seem to matter what she does, what she says, she gets reelected. It's amazing.
All right, let me go to some of my favorite highlights of the snowflakes and imagine if similar things were said and it was during Obama's presidency. This is Madonna and Ashley Judd. Watch this.
Okay.
To our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything, you. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. I am a nasty woman. I'm not as nasty as a man who looks like he bathes in Cheeto dust. I am not as nasty as your own daughter being your favorite sex symbol. Like your wet dreams infused with your own genes. We are here to be nasty. I'm nasty, like my blood stains on my bed sheets.
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, I don't know how to react to that, except that if Larry Elder talked about blowing up the Obama White House, I expect handcuffs, mugshot, perp walk, jail time, Hannity bailing you out with a file and a cake.
You know, the left loves throwing around this word fascism. Fascism is when the government tells private owners what to do with their business. There's only one president who's ever compelled every man, woman, and child to purchase a product, whether they want to, whether they can afford it, whether they need it, and that's Obama and Obamacare. Where are the songs? Where are the protest songs? Where are the rallies talking about, hell no, we won't go. I'm not going to do something that I don't want to do. Whatever happened to, I'm not going to be pushed around. But Donald Trump is a fascist. These people are unbelievable. They are unhinged.
They're totally unhinged. All right, Larry Elder, always good to see you. Thanks for helping us break down insanity before our very eyes. That's very helpful.
You got it. You got it.
Thanks so much. And when we come back, we need your help. An important question of the day and apparently not so nice messages left on the Hannity hotline. That's straight ahead.